Hey there, hope you're doing really well, and welcome to Ask Daniel number 19, in which we're going to go over a couple of emails, I think 3 actually, and one comment. And before we do, what was it? There were a couple of things I wanted to announce. One was a few months ago, someone named Dennis Trumpy, whenever I see an email from him, I react because it's now so close to Donald Trump. Well, his name is Dennis Trumpy. He had insomnia for like many decades, he says, and he spent like thousands of dollars and did so many things trying to sleep better until he came across CBTI himself, got better. He described himself as not having any trouble sleeping at this point. So he decided to create a podcast, which is interesting. He actually has like just 5 episodes that loop. So it's really 5 classes. And he just sent me the first one, and it sounded good. And I promised, or I didn't promise. I didn't. He didn't ask me to, but I said I would share it with my audience here. So if you want to check it out, it's called the Sleep to Health Podcast. And you know what? I'm just going to post the link in the description here. So that's a pretty good one. And with that said, yeah, let's jump right into our email for today. And as always, nothing is medical advice for anyone, just me sharing general thoughts and advice that I hope will be helpful to anyone that is tuning in and has a similar problem to the one that is writing to us. And with that said, let's start here actually. This came in 3 days ago, and this is from Leighton. Leighton has been always a very positive attitude, and always a pleasure seeing his comments and emails, etc. And with that said, let's read this. Hi Daniel, how are you? I'm good, thank you. It's been a while since we last contacted, which is a good thing, I guess. Yes, actually, I'm going to take a quick break there and say I think that's very, very good. This pattern I often see with people on the channel is that initially, some people just ask me one question and that's it, but some people ask kind of like very frequent questions initially, and then it becomes less and less frequent, which is always a good thing. Yeah, that kind of the longer it goes between emails, that means that the person is doing better. So that is a good thing, definitely. Now, Martin says, I finished Martin Reed's brilliant insomnia coaching course back in October last year, and I've definitely reaped rewards and was doing great until ... I'm now in a classic case of relapse and doing all the contributing factors that accentuate and sustains poor sleep. Reading up on insomnia, obsessing, refusing to see the good, etc., contacting yourself, Martin, no sleep confidence. My question is, the thing I find frustrating is the 2 steps forward, 5 steps back nature of insomnia. I've been doing so great, and now in 4 weeks into a bad spell. I've had insomnia for 15 years. Is the length of having it reflecting the time it takes to overcome it? Question, and we'll get to that one in a second. I'm implementing CBTI methods, and I don't understand why they worked before and not now. I'm also comparing recovery periods from other people and wondering why 4 months after graduating, I've seemed to have gone back. Is the road that treacherous? I know the answers to all of these, of course, just needing a shot of encouragement to carry on when I feel the road is never ending and unpredictable. Thank you. You and Martin's YouTube tutorials are a real port in the storm. I want to say thank you, Leighton, for staying in touch. And before we go to kind of the 2 questions here, I want to say the following, that for those of you tuning in here that are not Leighton, we can tell that the kind of description here is different from someone that really hasn't done any, well, not necessarily. Somebody who's just listened to all my YouTube channel, YouTube videos, or Martin's may very well have, learned as much as Leighton has. That said, something that I think we can learn from this email is that Leighton actually knows what to do. He actually knows what the right answers are. He's just looking for a little encouraging and coaching. And so I want to say that for those of you who find that all you need is here on this YouTube channel, and you work well kind of in a self-directed way, that's perfect. But I think for many, it does help having a coach, somebody to guide you through going through a structured program like Martin's course. And I think that the proof is here. You might think, well, Leighton did this course and he's still not sleeping well. Well, we all go through periods where we don't sleep well, but the difference here is that Leighton actually, he knows what to do, just looking for some encouragement here. So now that said, I want to say a couple of things. Well, first of all, I always like to start with positive things, and that is the following. We learned from in the latter part of this email that Leighton actually had problems sleeping for 15 years. Okay, 15 years. That's a long period of time. Did a course in October, and now it's October, November, December, January, February. So that's like 4 months ago, 3 to 4 months ago. And he says, I definitely reaped the rewards and was doing great. Now check that out. That is actually, in my opinion, that is kind of the headline. That is the big news here, is that Leighton had trouble sleeping for 15 years. Did I think Martin has a 6 or 8. I think it's an 8-week course, and was doing great. That's amazing. That's amazing. By the way, I want to sneak this one in here. That course I told you about in the beginning of this episode by Dennis Trumpy. He had an episode where he had a soundbite from Michael Schwartz, my friend and colleague, he said, if a pill or any type of device or something like that could produce the results that CBTI does, it would be considered a miracle. But because you can't put CBTI in a pill and sell it, you never hear of it, etc. So that just came to my brain right now, and I was, reading this email and seeing that, Leighton actually was doing great after 15 years insomnia. If a pill could produce that, it would be kind of like a miracle drug. And I thought that was a very cool quote. Anyway, now, so the good thing here, again, is there was a lot of benefit. And now the other thing is we can read here that Leighton knows that reading up on sleep, obsessing, refusing to see the good, etc., is no good things. You already know that, Leighton. That's fantastic. We don't have to spend more time there. Now, my question is, I've had this over 15 years. Is the length of having it reflect in the time it takes to overcome it? I want to say the quick answer to that is I believe it is a yes. But more important, this is more important, is the question of why. Why is it that it takes someone who has had insomnia for decades longer to get to good sleep than somebody who's only had it for, let's say, a few months? And this is what I believe, that insomnia, the root of insomnia is that part of your brain that is there to keep you safe, which is super important when you, for example, cross the street. Where that part of your brain that's really important when you cross the street is kind of confused when it comes to insomnia. What's happened is that instead of like doing its job, its supposed job, which is keep us safe from physical threats like a car, that part of your brain identifies lack of sleep, sleeplessness, as a threat, and is trying to keep you safe from the threat of sleeplessness by doing two things. By trying for you to figure out why you can't sleep, going in the direction of like understanding the problem so that you can kind of face it better, and trying to do things, to try this, try that, try to trial and error to do something to make you sleep more. That's what your brain's doing when you have insomnia. And when the brain has been doing that for 15 years, when the brain has been trying to keep you safe from sleeplessness for 15 years, it takes a while for your brain to kind of get to that point where it doesn't fear losing sleep. It's kind of finally realizing that sleeplessness is not a real threat; it's a perceived threat. That those years and years and years of being like monitoring for sleeplessness, like trying to figure it out, like keeping you safe, etc. It takes a long time for your brain to finally realize that sleeplessness is actually not a real threat. It's a perceived threat. And that's why I believe it takes much longer for somebody who has a long period of time of insomnia to get to the point where they no longer have it. I hope this has not been discouraging anyone. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of natural to just look at it that way. The longer you've had it, the longer it will take till you get better. That is true. Now, here's another one. So we go on to kind of the second question here is like, it's about like the path towards sleeping well. And like I'm saying, I'm implementing CBTI methods, and I don't understand why they worked before and not now. I think there are two important things we can learn from that one. I'm implementing CBTI methods, and I don't understand why they worked before and not now. And the first part, the first thing I want to say here is that when you have a problem like you're not sleeping well, you have insomnia, you're looking for a solution. Of course, that's what we do with all problems. Now, when people say this didn't work for me, I often hear it didn't make me sleep. It's not producing sleep. And that goes for like, melatonin or that sound machine or, stop drinking coffee. It's like, it didn't work. When I hear that, I hear it didn't make me sleep. And the insight there is that it cannot, like nothing can make you sleep except being sleepy and having nothing kind of that blocks that sleep. So having that sleepiness, like the drive, the gas pedal going, and no brake pedal, like no kind of like the worry or preoccupation, things like that, are not breaking. If you have that, you'll sleep. But again, nothing except your sleep drive can produce that. Nothing can make you sleep. Now, here's the thing. CBTI can also become what's called a sleep effort. If we look at CBTI as a way to kind of produce sleep, to make us sleep, guess what? The same thing's going to happen. You're going to be like doing your CBTI things and being like, okay, am I going to sleep now? Is it working? Is it not working? And when you do that, when you do anything to try to produce sleep, it doesn't work. So if you approach CBTI as kind of something that will hopefully make you sleep, it will not work, because it's only the absence of effort that can lead to sleep. Sleep is completely passive. It happens when we're not trying to do anything. So that's kind of number one here. And number two here is this. Number two here is the expectation. So you did a CBTI course, and you ended up actually sleeping, and you're happy with that. You're sleeping well. Then guess what? Sometime later, you again go through a period of time where you're sleeping very little. Then, oh, Elizabeth is on, and she said a comment was really good. Thank you, Elizabeth. So nice to see you here. And by the way, I have a question that I'll, an email from you that we'll go over a little bit later here. Thanks, Elizabeth. Yes, the expectation. If you've gone through CBTI one time, and then you kind of do it a second time, well, then you have the expectation that, I did this last time. Last time, it took me about 4 weeks to get better, so it probably will this time too, if I just do it the same way. And then you're self-monitoring. Then you're like, wait a minute, last time I did it, after 2 weeks I was here, now I'm not here. Why is that? Am I doing it wrong? Should I have done it differently? What I did last time, blah, 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 blah. Attention to insomnia increases. You're kind of, you're producing kind of more pressure to sleep by having that expectation that the same thing will happen that second time. We've seen this a couple of times on this channel. Somebody did a CBTI, did it well, has a relapse. Now it doesn't seem to work. And now, so I think the key insight here is, again, nothing can produce sleep. It's completely passive. So when you kind of get up early, you go to bed later, and you, other than that, try to shift your attention away from sleep, set it and forget it, then sleep happens. It happens because you produce kind of the right circumstances for it, but it's nothing active. So I hope that helped, Leighton. And actually, you already know the answer. So shout of encouragement is that you've done fantastic. You've had trouble sleeping for 15 years, and you went to a place where you were sleeping great. That is fantastic. That's fantastic in itself. The second thing here is that you are telling me, and I'm sharing here, that you had that much success initially. That's kind of that second tailwind. Like, a good thing happens, you talk about it, it reinforces the good thing. That is amazing. And I recently did an episode about like how a setback can actually be kind of really, really helpful. So I'm not going to go into it in detail here, but there are reasons for like when actually being where you are now can really catapult you forward. Because if you can get past this one and get back to where you are, which you will, then you're even better off. And then, these relapses will happen less and less frequently. So Leighton, hang in there, stay in touch, and you got this. Okay, now, next one. we're going to go to an email from Jaden that came in yesterday. Let's read it. Hi, Daniel. I've listened to quite a few of your videos now. Thanks so much for your clarity. It's been super helpful. That's amazing to hear. Thanks so much for the support. I've moved through a lot of stuff and relaxed and sleeping more now that I get what's going on. That is really, really encouraging. That is super encouraging. I have a question about sleep restrictions and having a wake-up time that I could not find on your channel. I may have missed it. You have lots of videos. Of course, there's like more than 350, I think so. And by the way, even if I have something on this topic, it's never the same because the question is always a little bit different, and I learn every day. I learn something new. So the question, I think the answers always get better. So I think for anyone out there, please send me questions. Don't try to look through the whole entire channel for the answer. Okay, I started to set up sleep restriction and recognize that my body gets concerned when I have a wake-up time. It's the core of my issue. Nights when I know I don't have to wake up at a specific time, I do much better, 85% or so. And I believe what Jaden's saying here is, so sleep restriction, by the way, for anyone that's new here, is like, it just means spending less time in bed. The word sleep restriction, the way it's called, is very unfortunate. I feel it should have been called something else. I like to call it sleep window, but anyway, 85% I believe is probably sleep efficiency, and that means like how much of the time you're in bed you actually sleep. When I started this channel, I spent, I believe that calculating sleep efficiency was quite important. Now I don't believe that's very important for most people, but and when we read 85% here, that just signals that when Jaden doesn't have a specific wake-up time, Jaden does better. Okay, some nights when I have a 5 a.m. wake-up time, my body will stay awake almost all night, maybe fall asleep around 3 a.m. About 4 to 5 days a week, I don't need an alarm, not so much insomnia. About 2 days per week, I do need an alarm. Many problems with insomnia. So setting up a sleep restriction schedule 7 days a week causes all kinds of issues to come up. Do I still do it anyway, or is there a different solution? Suggestions on what to do with that. This is a good one, and I can say right off the bat here that I've not had this question before. Definitely not had this question before. It is a good one and a tricky one. I can totally see how this is a tricky one. So I think there are kind of two options here, two good options. And one of them is to kind of focus on those 2 to 3 days per week when you do need an alarm, and that is to kind of treat this as anticipatory insomnia. Treat this as that type of insomnia that you have only when there's something going on the following day. And the other option is to say, no, we're going to do kind of the standard thing and set up like a schedule where you only spend, let's say, 6 hours, 6.5 hours, something like that, in bed every night. And now, if I want to say this, if I'd heard that someone only had trouble sleeping like twice per month, and it was only twice per month that they had to get up early, then I would have maybe said, you know what, that's pretty normal to have that, and I would have maybe even said like maybe just have an acceptance approach or something like that. When it is more frequent like this, then the acceptance approach doesn't really work. It's a pretty frequent problem, and so where I'm going with this is to say that I think I kind of lost my train of thought there. I was going somewhere. I don't really know where I was going now. But anyway, let's talk for a second about insomnia. But my feeling is that it is probably better to treat this as insomnia and go with getting up the same time every day. And I'll get to why in a second. But if you say, you know what, I want to focus on those 2 to 3 days when I do need an alarm, and treat this as kind of anticipatory insomnia, what I do? Well, then it becomes a game of this. It becomes a game of proving to yourself that that just by having an alarm does not necessarily need to you not sleeping well. And because what happens with anticipatory insomnia is that if you have something going on and you know you always have trouble sleeping when you have this thing going on, which is in this case, you have this belief, you have this thought that every time I have to get up at 5 a.m., I just don't sleep at all. Then it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy because you know I'm going to get up at 5 and I know I'm not going to sleep well. So one thing that is key towards anticipatory insomnia is finding counter evidence, finding that outlier, finding that time when I had to get up at 5 and you know what, I actually slept well that night. And if it's just like one time in your whole entire life, that is still evidence. And then you just play it up, play it up, play it up, play that evidence up, and refute that thought, refute the belief that you cannot sleep when you have to get up at 5 a.m. That's one important thing for anticipatory insomnia. Another important thing is kind of the basic knowledge that you cannot produce sleep, meaning you can't be like, okay, tomorrow, 2 days after tomorrow, I have to get up at 5 a.m. So therefore, I'm going to do these things to prepare myself for that. And that may seem discouraging, but it's actually empowering because if you know you can't like do anything particularly different than the night before that, then you're not going to try. And the trying is often the problem with anticipatory insomnia. When people are like, I know I have to get up early tomorrow, therefore I'm going to do this special thing so I really can sleep, which always backfires. Those two things are really key towards not having anticipatory insomnia. And the third one, it would be like, even if you don't decide not to do kind of the traditional bedtime restriction thing, then well, you wouldn't really help you to sleep in on the days you don't have an alarm. That would make it really, really difficult. So you'd probably still have to economize your sleep. So that would be kind of the approach if you would want to focus on only those 2 nights, which I think probably is difficult. I think the best thing to do is to do the following: to pick a time, and you could pick like a time close to 5 a.m. Let's say on or even 5 a.m. You could pick 5 a.m. and make that I'm going to get up 5 a.m. every single day. And that's not forever, of course. That's only till you get to a point where you kind of rebuild sleep confidence overall and sleep good every night, and then you can be more flexible. But you could pick, let's say 5 a.m. or something like that. Let's say 5 a.m. or you pick like 6 a.m. on the other nights, but something like not too much variability in the morning time. And then let's say you give yourself a 6.5 hour sleep window. So that means like, let's say you pick, I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm not going to go to bed before what does it come here? 10:30, right? 10:30, yeah, 10:30 p.m. 6.5 hour sleep window, and then stick with that. Now, the probably anxiety provoking part of that becomes you may think, well, guess what? Now I'm going to lose sleep every single night, and that's very understandable. And we always have to remind ourselves that the problem with insomnia is the fear of losing sleep, not the actual losing it. It's the fear of losing sleep that drives it. And the goal of spending less time in bed is to produce kind of predictability. That every night you fall asleep pretty easily and you sleep through the night. So a lot of people are really fearful of that, and you just always have to remind yourself that the long-term goal is to sleep well forever. You might lose some sleep initially to get to that goal. And I felt there was one more thing I want to add to that, which was simply that yes, it not only for you, Jaden, but really for a lot of people, the whole idea of spending less time in bed leads to that kind of fear of losing sleep. But it is very effective. It is very effective as long as you stick to it. So I think those are kind of the 2 ways to proceed here, and just stay in touch, Jaden. If there's any follow-up questions, please let me know. And again, I'm super happy that you found pretty early on here that you're sleeping a little bit better. Okay, so that said, let's move on to we talked to Leighton, Jaden, and then we have Holland. And let's see here. Yes, Holland, Holland, Holland. Where are you? There. So this came in only 6 hours ago. Hi, Daniel. Just found your podcast and wow, already so encouraging. That is awesome. Thank you. I have 4 small children. Yes, 4. So I need to be on my A game and not only start sleeping better, but stop the preoccupying thought process that feels like it's consuming my life. Our youngest just turned 1, and after an ordeal with his feeding and food allergies, etc., I have developed pretty bad postpartum anxiety. I've always been a good 8-hour night sleeper, but several months ago I had 2 unusual nights in a row where I did not sleep at all. It was traumatic enough that it kickstarted insomnia I've been battling for 5 months now. Okay. It feels like an eternity thanks to the terrible nausea I got after bad nights and depression it has caused. My doctor prescribed me trazodone, which worked great at first. I found a CBT doctor to try to help wean off the meds. I would have breakthroughs and setbacks, but never fully invested since I was on meds. I never felt fully invested. I finally decided I would put all my eggs in the CBT basket and get off the meds. It was awful. I didn't sleep, but worst of all, I felt like I had the flu and felt so depressed. I only lasted 3 days before I chickened out and started a new med, mirtazapine. This med has been helping a ton with the nausea and appetite. I believe it's helping with anxiety too. I feel like I need the medicine for the anxiety, but also feel like I can't do CBT fully while on it. I've kept up with CBT practices, but again, don't feel fully mentally invested because of the med. I'm only sleeping 3 to 5.5 hours a night, but at least my other symptoms feel manageable during the day. Do you think I can stay on this med and really buy into CBT? Or will the med become less effective over time, cause me to backslide, or at least attribute backslides to it? I feel like I'm in between a rock and a hard place, and I just want to get back to enjoying my family. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you, Holland, for sending this email with a lot of good questions. And I want to actually start with kind of a reflection that I hope you'll find helpful. And it's this one. There's no question whatsoever that, sleeping well makes us feel better, right? Now on the flip side of that, we can feel pretty good actually, even on nights where we slept little. I had a night, when was that? Thursday, where I was super excited and I woke up like 2 a.m. and I didn't sleep more and felt pretty good. I was sleepy for sure during the day, but functioned pretty good during the day. And I know that's just one, classic, like just one anecdotal evidence. But where I'm going with this is to say this. You're writing, I need to be on my A game and not only start sleeping better, but stop preoccupying thought process. And here's the thing with that is, completely understandable, but when you set it up like that, it may not help you at all. Meaning, when you have this kind of belief, which is completely understandable, and there's much truth in it, but if you feel like I gotta sleep better because I have 4 small children, then that actually take or that approach does not serve you well, because you're building this. How I should put it. Let me use this analogy. Sometimes we talk about putting sleep on a pedestal, which I don't hear at all in this email, but I'm just using this as an example here. When people put sleep on a pedestal, meaning they say, if I only slept well, then my skin would be glowing, I would function better at work, I would be a better friend, my finances would be better, and I would be much happier, right? Then sleep is on a pedestal. It is so important to get that sleep. It's crucial to get that sleep. It becomes impossible. The pressure to get that sleep makes it impossible. We have to, weird as this sounds, we have to find evidence that sleep isn't that important. Sure, it's important, but it's not everything. And once we start doing that, once we start taking sleep kind of down from the pedestal and be like, okay, sleep is great, but I can do pretty good without it. I can still be a great mom. I can still be a great friend, a great husband. I can do stuff even when I don't get that much sleep, then you're on the right track. Then sleep will come to you. So that was the kind of first thing I want to say. And it's the same thing in the end here. I'm in between a rock and a hard place, and I just want to get back to enjoying my family. And, again, if you feel like I have to sleep well so I can enjoy my family, there's so much pressure on sleep. If this is hard. I totally see this is hard, but it's almost more the other way around. If you can kind of get yourself to find that reserves deep within and enjoy your family, then sleep will come. We always hear like you gotta get good sleep so you can do this, but it's much more like you gotta do that so you can get good sleep. All right, so that was kind of a reflection. And now that said, a couple of other things. The story here is such a classical one. Somebody who slept good. Actually, the most classical one is somebody who slept pretty good, maybe had some insomnia here and there, or slept good, like in your case. But the typical one is maybe somebody who slept so-so and then had a lot of trouble sleeping. In Holland's case here, we see somebody that actually always slept good, 8 hours a night, but then had a precipitating event, and then kickstarted insomnia, and now it's been for 5 months. Feels like an eternity, totally. Well, by the way, I want to just point out that we have Leighton who sent an email today, 15 years of insomnia. And we have 15 years of insomnia, then it can take like months probably before you get to a place of like sleeping good for from then on and forever. You've had it 5 months. That is a long time to have trouble sleeping, but you're in a good place still. You're in a really good place. And I'm not saying that Leighton isn't in a good place. I mean, Leighton's going to sleep fantastic, but you're in a good place in the sense that, I think the path towards sleeping well may not be that long, because you can still remember a time in your life when you slept great. And your brain is the same, the air you breathe is the same, everything's the same. There's no reason whatsoever to believe that you are not going to sleep just like you did a couple of months ago again. Now, now we go to the medications. Here's the thing. CBT, by the way, I want to credit Martin Reed, insomnia coach Martin Reed, for educating me on this one, putting it so clearly. He told me one time, I'll never forget, CBTI works great if somebody's taking medications. It works great if somebody's not taking medications. And as I'm saying this, I immediately recognize I have to rephrase that. He said, CBTI works great if somebody's taking medications, the same dose, the same time as prescribed. It works great if somebody's not taking medications, but it's very difficult when somebody is using medications conditionally. So let's go over this one. So here's the thing with medications, and we have a live question here from Highfill Invest, which we'll get to in a second. Here's the thing with medications. Number one, medications cannot produce sleep. Nothing in the whole entire world can produce sleep except your own body. Your own body's kind of need for sleep. That's the only thing that can produce sleep. Now, going back to the gas and brake model I talked about before, our own body's need for sleep is the gas, and then we have kind of preoccupation, worry, excitement, stress, anything like that is the brake. Now, if you have a strong gas and no brake, guess what? You're going to sleep really good, okay? If you have you don't really need to sleep and you're not worried, you're not going to sleep either. And if you're really worried but you're not sleepy, you're not going to sleep at all for sure. Most people in insomnia are in this state. There you are to some degree sleep deprived. You have a sleep need, but you also are worried. So you don't get good sleep. You're in and out of sleep. You're fragmented sleep. And guess what? Trazodone is kind of sedating, like everything. Like it's just like any medication is sedating. That's all it is. And then it kind of like eases up on the brake, and then your gas pedal can work. So your body can allow your body to sleep. Now, the confusing part is that when you take a medication, it can seem like it's making you sleep. It's like, oh, the medication is making you sleep. It's not. It's just kind of easing up on the gas and allowing your body to sleep. So a key thing is to understand that and to realize that if you're taking medications for a year or 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or whatever it is, every time you took a medication and slept, it was your own body that produced that sleep. Every minute, every second of it was produced by your own body. Medication cannot make you sleep. And I'm saying this to boost sleep confidence. Anybody out there that's taking a medication, it never makes you sleep. It's always your own body that makes you sleep. Okay. Now, with that little thing said, the problem is again, if somebody's taking medications conditionally. So what I mean by that is, I mean this: if somebody goes to bed and goes, "All right, I'm gonna see if I can get to sleep without this medication. Let me just try." And that person goes to bed, and they're like, "I didn't take my trazodone, but I think I'll be okay." And I was like, "Okay, that's been an hour now. Maybe I should take it, maybe not. It's been an hour and a half. I'm still not sleeping. I'm not even feeling sleepy. I think I gotta take it. Maybe I should take half of it. What if I take it tomorrow? What if I can't sleep at all tomorrow either? What if I what sabotages sleep when you're taking a sleep medication conditionally. And by the way, when you're trying to get off medications, just as like, let's see if I can get off medication, I've never seen that work, because the preoccupation, the thought process that comes with trying to see if you can sleep without it just makes insomnia so strong. Insomnia, the oxygen for insomnia is attention. And when you think about it so much, then it's going to be impossible to sleep. So I fully believe that if you, Holland, commit to CBT and you take mirtazapine or trazodone or whatever it is, the same time every single night, it won't really interfere with the process of working on CBT. And the goal of CBT is really to rebuild sleep confidence, to show you that you can sleep, there's nothing wrong with you, etc. And you can do that even when taking medication. And then when you see that, your sleep confidence is building, well, guess what? Then eventually you can come off the medication. And which, by the way, is a kind of separate topic, but coming off medication is, in my opinion, it's like, it has to be a decision. It has to be like, I've decided to come off it and I'm not going to second guess it. I'm never going to go back to taking it, because even if you give yourself that, slight, little potential, maybe option of going back, then that thought is going to be there in your brain. And you're going to be like, it's been 3 days. It's been 4 days. Maybe it's been 5 days. And that just sabotages the whole thing. So coming off medication for insomnia has to be like, I've decided to do it and I'm not going to second guess that ever. It's like a decision. Let's see if there's any more here. So there was kind of one question here. Will the med become less effective over time and cause me to backslide? Here's the thing with that one is that I don't actually nowadays believe that tolerance is a very big issue. I think that what happens over time is more that somebody's taking medication and they start believing that it's making them sleep, and that kind of artificially boosts their sleep confidence. Actually, it doesn't boost their sleep confidence. They kind of externalizing their sleep confidence. They believe in this outside thing is making them sleep, and then there's some stress going on, and then they sleep worse, and then they say like, oh, the medication stopped working, which is kind of just a mind trick. In fact, the medication was never working. It was never making you sleep. But when there's kind of an additional stress, that makes you sleep worse. And then your mind goes into like, the medication stopped working. So I don't believe, to be honest with you, that what's called tolerance is really a big thing. It's more a sleep confidence thing. When you sleep better taking medication, and then you sleep worse, it's not that the medication stopped working. It's just that you falsely put your sleep confidence, and you believe it was making you sleep. That's the thing with that. So Holland, I hope this was really, really helpful to you. Hang in there. Any follow-up questions, please submit them, and you got this. Okay, you can do this. You can do this. Now, live question from Highfill Invest. Hi, Daniel. What do you recommend when you wake up at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. after falling asleep at 10:30, I'm guessing p.m., then being up for an hour, then sleeping till 5:30 a.m.? What is typically normal for normal bad nights of sleep? Have never heard you address this. Okay, I'm guessing you're on here, Chad. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say this. So what I'm hearing is when you have at 2, at 3, at 4 after falling at 10:30, then being up for an hour, then sleeping until 4:30 a.m. I think this is super important that to know that waking up from sleep is in itself completely normal and expected. When I'm very, very sorry about this, but I have to send a quick message to my wife. No, I'm live. Okay. So when you have read a lot of sleep studies, like I have, you see that waking up, 10 to 15 to 20 times is completely expected, and everybody does. But what's different when you have trouble sleeping is the reaction to waking up. Somebody who's never had trouble sleeping. Okay. Chad says chiming in here. In a given night, I wake up just one of these things, not all three. So go to bed at 10:30, wakes up either 2 or 3 or 4, then is up for an hour, and then sleep until 5:30. Okay, got it. So waking up is normal, but the reaction to it is different. If you never had any trouble sleeping and you wake up, you probably go like, oh, I'm up, okay, I'm turning around, okay, go back to sleep. There's none of that break. No, waking up does not trigger any emotional response at all. It's just, oh, I'm up, okay, go back to sleep. When you've had trouble sleeping, waking up can be triggering. It can trigger you to be like, oh gosh, I'm up again. Why am I up again? Oh, I'm annoyed. What am I going to do, etc. So waking up is not the problem. It's kind of more the reaction to waking up. And Rakka is on here live too. Hi. Yes, I'm definitely. I'm gonna read your comment, Rakka, and answer to that in a second here. So the waking up part is normal. Reaction to it is not working. So I want to say this. Number one, Chad, you seem to know when you're waking up. Okay, and you probably know where I'm going with this, which is to say it's better not knowing. It's better not knowing what time it is. When you know, you got it right. When you know what time it is, you immediately start calculating. Like, oh, I went to bed this time. I've been sleeping for this many hours, or now I have to get up at this time, etc., etc. That calculating is not good. So I think a really good thing is always not knowing what time it is overnight. One time I said, timelessness is the cure for sleeplessness. Not knowing what time it is can be really helpful. Number two, knowing that if you wake up and it's 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whatever it is, you can't do anything to make yourself go back to sleep. It's impossible. There's nothing that can do that. So trying to make yourself back to sleep is going to worsen the problem. It's going to make you more alert. That's kind of insight number two. And then insight number three is sleep only happens when we are not thinking about sleep. So I think the best thing to do when you wake up is firstly kind of querying your emotions, if you will. So you wake up and okay, I'm awake, and then you go, let me think of something pleasant, and you think about like something that makes you happy. Think about some vacation you took or you're going to take or whatever it is. And if that comes easy to you, then just stay in bed and just think about something pleasant. That means you're not that hyper aroused. You'll probably fall back asleep again. If that does not come easy to you, if you try to think of something pleasant, but you're like, oh, I'm annoyed, I just can't sleep, then you got to do something. You got to do something that takes your mind off sleep. And that could be reading a book, listening to a podcast, checking some video show, or whatever it is, as long as it takes your mind off thinking about sleep. And a lot of people will go like, what if I just wake up more? Well, guess what? That could happen maybe that particular night, but thinking about sleeping frustrated in bed is never helpful in the long run. It's always much better to do something distracting. And keep this one in mind. Don't pick up the boring book. Don't be like, I'm going to read this really boring book that I hope will make me sleep again. Guess what? Then you're trying to sleep again. You have to pick up a book that's interesting, that you're really into, that you enjoy. When you get into it, when you're reading for pleasure, guess what? You're not thinking about sleep anymore. Oh, I think I'm sleepy. So I think that is the answer there, Shad. I hope that was helpful to you. And with that said, we talked about Holland, and that means we were done with those emails here. And actually, let's move on to this comment from Rakka, and then we only have the email from Elizabeth left. So this is a comment on Ask Daniel number 18 from Rakka. So let's read this. I'm not sure what to do. I'm a 20-year-old trans female. I've had trouble sleeping since April with absolutely no issues beforehand. It started off mild, so I got on all the sleep aids, over the counter, and prescriptions, trying them for a week here and there and seeing if there was improvement, even one that cost $100 for a month with no improvement. I went about 6 days of no sleep, went to the hospital and got a 25 milligram Seroquel dose, which didn't help, which then got me hospitalized in a psych ward a month later with no progress. I looked into everything I could. I have mild sleep apnea, but that I assume wouldn't cause the issue of not initiating sleep, but rather waking up, which isn't my issue. I'm wide awake all night and day, but feel very off during the day. I'm vegan and I take hormone replacement therapy and have been looking into seeing if diet or hormones could contribute. And I found posts on Reddit from people who have suggested they have been having trouble sleeping while vegan or on HRT. I guess that's hormone replacement therapy, I guess. I also take vitamin D supplements and B12 because I live in Canada. 2,000 units of vitamin D, 1,000 micrograms a week, B12, and I've heard this could cause insomnia or worsen it depending on how and when you take it, which I take in the morning. I've since stopped taking my over-the-counter Seroquel, which I got to 100 milligrams, but stopped due to bizarre side effects. And then, before we go into more detail here, I think there was some more detail from Rakka. Read more. Here it is. Thank you for the. Oh yeah. I got this one. Okay. Thank you for. I have been watching your videos, and we'll try to incorporate a lot of what you say. I do follow the basic sleep hygiene guidelines, but that hasn't helped much. Okay. So let's do this quick review of the 3P model and kind of talk about insomnia from there. And by the way, Ankita, I thank you so much for your comments, and I will get to that in a second here. So, Rakka, here's the thing. Let's go over how insomnia happens. And so we have this model, which is very good, which is called the 3P model because there are 3 P's involved. First one is predisposing factors. Second one is precipitating factors. Third one is perpetuating factors. And as we go over the predisposing factors, try to see how much this fits you. So as humans, we are more or less likely to at some point have trouble sleeping. And some of the traits that are predisposing are these ones. Having a tendency to worry is predisposing. Being kind of a high achiever, type A personality, almost like a perfectionist, that is predisposing. Being somebody who kind of tends to overthink is another one. Or being a person who is health conscious, who takes one's health seriously. Those are all like predisposing factors. And the important thing here is that I want to say almost everyone with trouble sleeping has, to some degree, has some of these. It could happen to somebody who doesn't, but most of the time this fits pretty well. And what I'm saying here is that these are except maybe a tendency to worry, maybe that's not necessarily a good one, but being a high achiever, being health conscious, being somebody who analyzes, thinks a lot, those are good things. Those things that get you ahead in life, like those are positive things when it comes to anything but really insomnia. And why is that? Because like a kind of a traditional problem, like, I don't know, fixing a car or whatever, like that model works. Like, I'm going to find out what the problem is, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to see if it works. If not, I'm going to do this other thing. When it comes to sleeplessness, it doesn't. Here. Oh, Ankita, I see your comments. I'm going to get to but when it comes to sleeplessness, it doesn't work because it's not like this traditional tangible problem. It's like the sleeplessness thing is like the more attention, the more, actually, quick side loop here. Imagine somebody that sleeps really, really well and ask them like, what do you do to sleep? They'll go like, I don't know, I just sleep. They put no attention towards sleep. They don't think about sleep. They don't do anything to sleep. So going back to where I was before, when you start kind of applying that problem solving thing to sleep, you're giving sleep more attention. You're giving insomnia more attention. It just grows. It becomes a bigger problem the more you try to solve it. That's the tricky part. Anyway, so the predisposing factors we talked about, and now we're going to the second P, which is like precipitating events. And if we go back to this comment from Rakka, it was starting April, no issues. It started off mild. And so we don't know what it was, but we know timing-wise that something happened in April that was kind of a triggering. And Rakka, as I said, yes, those definitely apply to me, especially anxiety after sleep issues. Yep. And no, so Rakka, we don't know exactly what it was that happened in April, but something kind of triggered sleeplessness. And here's the thing with that. Hey, sorry, one more thing about that. Those kind of predisposing factors, like our personality traits. It is not a problem having those traits. A lot of people have those traits and sleep fantastic, amazing, even though they're predisposing. They're not a problem in itself. The precipitating factor, the second P, that's not a problem in itself. When you are, when anything stressful happens to us, any change, anything like that, can trigger sleeplessness. That's not a problem. That's normal. But the third P, that's where it gets. This is where it gets really important. Okay, these are the perpetuating factors, the things that take sleeplessness and makes it chronic insomnia. And this is where, when you try to figure it out and try to do things to solve your sleeplessness, that really feeds the beast. That feeds the problem. And going back to I'm gonna answer your questions, Ankita, in a second. Going back to what you wrote here, all these medications, all the things one tries, all the things you do to kind of like solve insomnia, it just feeds it. The more you think about insomnia, the more a problem it gets. The more things you do, the bigger problem it becomes. And so, so we can read from Rakka's comments there that there's a lot of these what we call sleep efforts, things done to try to produce sleep. They always backfire. It gets you into this loop of like, I can't sleep. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to try this thing. I sleep even less. I don't know what. This is a really big problem. I'm going to try this other thing. I sleep even less. This is a big problem. I sleep even less. That's chronic insomnia. Chronic insomnia. Chronic insomnia. Chronic insomnia. And to add to that, sleep hygiene. Sleep hygiene, I think, is another big. It's a big culprit. Sleep hygiene is a big culprit. Sleep hygiene is like, keep it dark, keep it cool, stay off your screen. Don't eat too much. It's like a myriad of like these little things that you're supposed to do to sleep well. Well, guess what? That feeds this notion that sleep is complicated. It's not. It's just a gas and brake model. Gas and brake. Sleep is not complicated. But sleep hygiene makes it feel like it's complicated, and it makes you feel like as if you can control it by doing all these little things. Super anxiety provoking. So sleep hygiene, I want to say, I think it's a big problem. So I hope this was helpful to you, Rakka. And now going towards like, all these things like vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin B12, like. All that, like thinking about that, like, okay, this one, people often ask me like, is coffee the problem? And I go like, coffee is not the problem, but believing coffee is the problem is the problem. Same thing, I believe, with all these things like vitamin D, vitamin this, selenium, that's not the root cause, but like the process of trying to figure out what the root cause is, like all the attention given to insomnia, that is the problem. Thanks for the support, chat. Oh, that's amazing. Thanks for liking this. That's awesome. So then, all that being said, I believe the path is this one. It's hard, but this is the path. Try to abandon the pursuit of trying to find what's causing the insomnia. That's such an important thing. Number 2, spending less time in bed. Spending maybe 7 hours in bed or something like that, 6.5 hours in bed or something like that. That's so important because it builds a strong sleep drive. It's such an important step away from trying to sleep, and eventually you see that, oh wow, I can sleep, etc. I really believe that is it. So Rakka, I hope that helped, and like stay in touch. Let us know how things go. And then Ankita here. I'm from India. I sleep very easily, but my sleep breaks up more than 5 times. How can I get rid from this 7 hours of broken 7 hours? I got 7 hours of broken sleep 5 to 6 times, broken for 11 months. And Raphael, by the way, thanks for that comment. I think what you're describing, Ankita, is pretty much typical insomnia. I mean, we know very little, so if you it's always good to check with your doctor, etc. Make sure there's nothing else going on, like sleep apnea. If somebody's like snoring really loud and wake up a lot of times, that could be it. But for insomnia, for somebody who's like, it takes me hours to fall asleep, or I wake up multiple times, and it takes me a long time to fall back asleep. I'm struggling with sleep. I don't know what to do. I don't understand what's going on. Insomnia, the best thing is what I always talk about here. Set it and forget it. Spend less time in bed. Spend maybe 6.5 hours in bed or something like that. Get up the same time every morning. Get up the same time every morning. Go to bed pretty late, and just go with that. Just go with that. That's the way to get better quality sleep. And Rakka said, yeah, I commented here, and Rakka, yeah, totally. Just hang in there, and it's not easy. Getting past insomnia is not easy, but if you just go down this path, you will do better for sure. And then Highfill chat said, I noticed a lot of people are afraid of health consequences. In the comment section, could you provide data to back up it doesn't? All right. Well, I can do this actually. I can say okay. For those of you who are concerned about health consequences of insomnia, just read my book, Why We Don't Sleep. I'm putting it here. It's available for like 99 cents on Amazon, and I go over in detail here why I say that sleeping short has not sleep. It's not I go over detail why we're always told that it's a problem and what the evidence is that it isn't, and more. But definitely check that out. And I want to move here to the last email we have. And I don't know if you're still there, Elizabeth, because this has been pretty long episode. Maybe you're watching this later, but either way, this is Elizabeth from Talking Insomnia number 18, who, for those of you who saw that, slept upside down. Which when I talked to Elizabeth, I was like, "What do you mean you slept upside down?" I literally thought she was hanging from her feet or something like that. No, she just put her head where her feet normally goes. One of the things that there's so many things people do to try to sleep better, and that was a new one for me that time. But anyway, firstly, I want to share that Elizabeth actually went on to write an article for Medium that was published and recommended for the lifestyle page. That's awesome. And I will post a link to it. I read it. It was a very good article. Now, although when she wrote the article, she shares she was doing really well. Reality is I'm struggling at this point. After going on your podcast several weeks ago, I was the one who slept upside down. LOL. My sleep did improve for several days, but then I was hit with this fear that I wouldn't sleep again and things regressed. Since I've been trying to stay consistent with bedtime routines, but trying not to turn my routines into rituals, which can seem a little tricky at times, I still experience these episodes where I fall asleep, and then 2 to 3 minutes in, I experience this surge of anxiety, which jolts me awake, even with my current 5.5-hour sleep window. So there was a couple of things I really want to comment on, and oh yeah, the first one was I hear that in the latter portion of the mail it says my sleep did improve for several days, but then I was hit with fear. On the flip side, I think maybe it was just a few days that you were doing better. I got a sense when I read the article that maybe it was a longer stretch of time where you're doing better. But either way, I want to say, like, remembering that talk we had, Elizabeth had really gone down the rabbit hole and tried like all kinds of things to sleep better, and in light of that, imagine that just kind of a conversation where we kind of talked about insomnia, it became more clear, etc. That led to several days of improved sleep. that is a cause for celebration. It shows that it demonstrates that education, just understanding insomnia, kind of just understanding it and kind of getting a path of, you should, this is the path forward. That is the way. That is the way towards sleeping well forever. So even though it may be a short period of sleeping well, I still celebrate it, still celebrate. And by the way, writing an article talking about how these kind of CBTI works, that is great affirmation. That is great. It's like, whenever you're not sleeping well, it's best not to talk to friends or share it or anything like that. It just affirms that you're not sleeping well. But when you are sleeping well, you should tell the world. You should write an article on Medium, or I mean, all seriousness. Anyone out there who hears this, if you're just like sleeping better, then write a comment or send me an email. That's really, really important. We see like Leighton, for example, or now Elizabeth or other people. It's often like when things are going well, and then you kind of have a setback, and then, okay, let me check in with Daniel again. I love emails. That's super, super important. But if somebody out there that hears this decides, you know what, I'm gonna email Daniel every time I have a good night, that would be amazing. That would be really, really helpful for you, because that affirms that you're doing well. So anyway, I went on a little side note there. Now, I think here's what I'm thinking. I'm struggling after going blah, blah, blah. I was hit with this fear that I wouldn't sleep again and things regressed. And that illustrates, yeah, the fear of losing sleep is such a big reason that you actually do. I've been trying to stay consistent with bedtime routines. That's good, but not turning routines into rituals. That's super good too. So I think, I know this is gonna, so easy to say, so hard to do, but sleep, getting to a place of sleeping well is what I always talk about here. It's setting and forget it. It's set it and forget it. It is, hold on 1 second here. Here we are. It's so what I hear from Elizabeth. Oh, Elizabeth is here. Hi, Elizabeth. What I hear is that Elizabeth is doing setting good, like a 5.5 hour sleep window, which means that you, Elizabeth, is spending like 5.5 hours in bed. That is a very narrow sleep window, and that may be really good. I've come to believe that having a super narrow sleep window is maybe not that important. So, but anyway, let's say 5.5 hours. So if you get up the same time every morning, let's say you get up at 5 and you're not going to bed before 11:30, that's your sleep window. That's set it. You're doing that great. So when somebody's doing that part really good, then the next step is forget it. So you do set it, now the forget it. That's the harder part. But the forget it part is like trying not to read up on sleep, trying not to kind of try things and tinker, try not to change things, and just kind of stick the course. And more importantly than that is like go towards the light. When we're trying to, like, when we do things to kind of like avoid having sleeplessness, that's not good. When we're doing things for pleasure, that's fantastic. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, like, if you say, okay, I've had this trouble sleeping, I'm setting it, but I'm going to try to forget it, then if you then decide, I'm going to take a 2-hour hike every day so that I can forget about sleep and I can sleep better, then that is not going to work, because every step of that hike, you're going to be like, I hope this is going to help me sleep. What if it doesn't? Well, maybe I should just hike a little bit more. That becomes a sleep effort. No good. But if you love hiking and you haven't done it for a while and you're like, oh my gosh, I really want to take a hike without any thought about how that's going to affect your sleep, that is moving towards the light. Then you are doing something that takes your mind off of sleep. You're doing something you enjoy, and you really decrease that break, that hyperarousal that keeps you from sleeping. So going towards the light, doing things you enjoy, even if you're super tired, that is the path. Now, I think I just want to add one more thing, Elizabeth, here, which is actually that the whole purpose of this channel is to help people sleep better, to just share everything I know about sleep so that it can help someone like you, Elizabeth. Now, sometimes just having the information is not enough. sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes you need someone there for like accountability and support, and like, you know, more frequent answers to questions, etc., etc. So something that I think everyone should consider is finding someone that can help them with their sleep. And when I started this channel, I was always like, just find anyone that does CBTI. It doesn't matter if it's a psychologist or an MP or a PA or things like that. Nowadays, I'm a little bit, you know, I've heard so many people go to someone and said they did CBTI, but it was really sleep hygiene. So I want to say, and Martin, my good friend, colleague, Martin Reed, has this coaching program. It is fantastic. Consider it, Elizabeth. You know, if you feel like if you feel that would help you, consider that, or somebody locally that you get a sense that they really understand sleep, they understand insomnia, and get someone like that. I think that could really help. But yeah, and then, but again, yeah, stay in touch, Elizabeth. Let us know how things go, and hang in there. And then Ankita, I don't have any sleep apnea. I sleep easily. I wake up early after sleep and wake more than 4 times. I'm just 18 years old. Okay, I hear. Well, I think, you know, Ankita, I want to say, like, pretty much everyone that writes me an email or has a comment has similar things to what you're having. You know, wake up 4 times or 5 times or 6 times, and then has, you know, often some trouble falling back asleep, is very worried about sleep, is kind of thinking a lot about their sleep, is trying to find the reason for it, and that kind of problem when you trying to find the reason you can't sleep and you're doing things to kind of sleep more, it feels like it's the right thing to do, but when it comes to sleep, it's a passive process. It just has to happen. So the key is always like, spend less time in bed and try not to do things to kind of produce sleep. And but by the way, Ankita, you can write an email. Write an email with, like, you know, everything that's been happening, etc. And I'll email it in the next episode. Is Ask Daniel number 19. So with that said, thanks everyone for your comments and all the support. And I'll be back answering questions on Thursday. So anyone out there that has a question, please send an email or leave a comment. Until then, I wish you all the best. Thank you.